evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Bigfoot Odyssey's Spook Week. It is our fourth installment of Spook Week, and we've got some spooktastic stories for you tonight. You can't see the overlay there. With me, as always, producer and co-host of the show, Miss Daniela Iolo. How are you, Daniela?
I'm good and on time.
That's okay. You know, things happen. But our guest for this evening, creator and host of Paranormal Hearts, Miss Kat Ward. Welcome, Miss Kat.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
And a man that needs a little introduction, creator of Dixie Cryptid on YouTube, Mr. Cam Buckner. How are you, buddy?
Doing good, man. Brought my my scary.
Yep. See, yeah, I decided to be scary tonight instead of just Kerry. I put an S in front of my name if nobody noticed.
I love that.
This is actually my headlamp that I forget to bring with me out here at night when I work at night. And I have to like feel my way down the driveway to I've got all kind of trees and stuff between me and without a moon, you can't see anything out here. Nothing.
South Mississippi, the pines, it's so dark. People don't know how dark it is. Like if you drive down 59 at night and the pines, you know, it's real, even though it's 4-lane, it's tight. It is so dark in South Mississippi. One of the dark, fly over it, you'll see. It's one of the darkest places there is. But hey, you know, we've got some good stories lined up for everybody tonight. Kat, why don't you tell everybody where they can find your podcast?
Well, my podcast is a monthly show. It comes out the last Sunday of every month, and I mainly release it on Podbean. But I'm also on YouTube. I have a channel there. I'm on Stitcher, iTunes, pretty much anywhere that you can find podcasts. So yeah, I actually released a new episode just today at 6:00 Eastern.
All right, and do you have guests on? How do you do
right. Yep, I talk with people who have paranormal experiences, and at first, when I started the show 2 years ago, I used to just want people with ghost or spirit interaction, and then I realized, well, paranormal is not just ghost; it's also cryptids like the Bigfoot, and it can also be aliens or UFOs. So Cam was on my show once talking about his UFO experience, and I've had a couple of others, and had some people talk about various cryptids that they encountered as well.
Nice. And Cam, what is it you do again? No, I'm kidding.
Everybody knows.
Everybody watching this knows who Dixie Cryptid is. I guarantee it. All right. Well, yeah, we're sorry we're late. I had just a little bit of confusion, a little miscommunication. I kind of blame myself because I thought about this. I did, and I didn't say anything. Daniela lives in the UK, and time went back last night, right?
It did.
Yeah.
We started the show at 1:00, and at 2:00 we went back to 1:00, and yeah, well, an hour's somewhere in the ether.
Yeah.
And so tonight I thought we'd just start the normal time, and I didn't realise obviously your clocks don't go back, so
till next week.
We had a bit of a confusion with the time, but we're here now.
Yeah. Somehow we're saving daylight by going back an hour. So I think it's just meant to be for the spring when you actually save. And you know, some places here don't observe daylight savings. They just change time zones, which is a cop out. They don't have to mess with their clocks though.
Same thing up here in Canada. Saskatchewan doesn't change their time.
Yeah, so you just change time zone, I guess, officially. Yep. Since I don't know, it's a government thing. Who knows? But you know what? We have a mixing board on the way. I just tracked it. It's going to be delivered tomorrow, and I'm going to ship it all the way to Lancaster, England. So Daniela can have us some nice music in the background, and we'll do all kind of great stuff with this mixing board. We have to thank Crypto Reality for that. Mr. Mark Zasky has donated that to us. He gave it to us free of charge. He's a musician, and he's got like 30 of them probably. I don't know. He's got these massive mixing boards all over his studio, and he gave us 4-channel or 6-channel. So we're gonna get there. We're gonna get there. But right now, why don't we tell a story and let's kind of talk about it. Cam, you want to kick us off?
Yeah, I can. Now, I've got a few stories that I've got lined up, and everybody likes the Bigfoot cryptid stuff for me. And this first one is, but the rest of them aren't, but they're real spooky stories.
Cool.
But yeah, you're going to get to hear me narrate without me going through and editing everything. And my dogs aren't in here, which is a good thing. So they're all in the house with my wife, and she's watching a movie or something, so they can bug her. But yeah, this first story is pretty good. It seemed like the perfect day for a walk. The sun was shining, the leaves were starting to change color, and the biting cold of impending winter was just around the corner. James decided to finally check out the Riverside Trail that went past his apartments. The view, according to one of his neighbors, was beautiful this time of year. They're not wrong, James thought, watching an orange leaf float down the river. While he considered turning around and making his way back home, James noticed something in the distance along the side of the trail near a tree. It looked like a dollar bill. And when he could see it clearly, he discovered a $100 bill. He was thrilled. Excuse me. He immediately began to think of all the things he would buy with his new find. James knelt down to pick up the bill, and just as his fingertips connected with the money, he was struck on the back of the head. "Sorry about all this," a stranger said. James' eyes fluttered open. What? Where am I? He was lying on the ground, and his head was pounding. From his spot in the grass, James could feel that the back of his head was wet. He was bleeding. "You're nowhere important," the stranger replied. "Listen, I'm not going to tell you whether to cry out for help or not, but I'd kind of appreciate it if you did. I'm not picky." James looked down and saw that the stranger was making sure that the chain attached to his ankle was secure. The other end was nailed to the ground with a stake. His duffel bag of supplies had more clamps and chains inside. The stranger stood up. "Okay, now, scream or don't scream. Do whatever you want." He picked up his bag and he walked off towards the woods. James got to his feet. Wait, what are you doing? Let me go." "No can do, friend," the stranger called out. "On second thought, keep yelling like that. I like it." James started pulling at his chain. The stake wasn't budging, and the clasp around his ankle seemed secure. He wasn't going anywhere, and then panic set in. Hey, what are you doing? Where am I? Help me." James looked around and could only see trees around a small clearing. The stranger set his bag down near a tree. He reached over and picked up a rifle. And then James thought he could see the man looking at him through the scope. "Don't shoot me, please, don't shoot me," James screamed, cowering in fear. "Why are you doing this?" A loud, rolling roar rang out through the forest not far from him. He heard branches breaking. A creature was heading their way. "That's why," the stranger called out. "Oh, God," James realized, watching a large form approach inside the tree line. He looked over at the stranger, who may as well have become invisible in the tangled brush. He's hunting something else. "Oh my God, I'm the bait." The end.
What?
What?
Man, that's I was
Scary.
I was on the edge of my seat with that.
There's got to be more.
I was like, well, the Bigfoot's going to come save him. You know, that's where, my wishful thinking was taking me anyway.
It's a Halloween story. It's got to be a horror story. So.
I guess so, man. It can't be a happy ending, I suppose. Not all of them, anyway. I don't know.
You know how many people are going to comment on this through the next few months and go, "I call BS."
Oh yeah, I know, right? I know everybody thinks that they all have to be true stories, and you normally tell true stories, but you'll just kind of change the flow a little bit, to make it sound more interesting, which helps to me. I think.
Can I explain that?
Yeah.
And I've done it before on videos before, and people just a very small amount of people. I can't just say people in general, but if I do a video with a story that a kid wrote, I have about a dozen people absolutely get triggered and lose their mind, and they leave the nastiest comments. But here's the deal. I think I've got 100 videos up now, and most videos have at least 2 or 3 stories in them. Mm. And with the exception of 5 fictional stories that I invited kids to write so that they could hear their story on a YouTube channel. And then way back last December or January, I actually wrote 2, and I called them fiction. It's a part 1 and part 2. I can't even remember, Newlyweds or something like that.
That was it, Newlyweds.
So there are 7 stories out of 300 that are fiction, and I tell everybody that these are fictional stories, but still I get people, well, we've all been talking. We're just not going to listen to your channel anymore. And because you're just killing your channel. It's like, so, but these are okay. Just so nobody freaks out on you in your comments on your video.
Oh, it's going to happen.
Every story that I narrate tonight is going to be a fictional, scary story. This is a fun night for scary stories for me, and that's what I'm doing. Okay, clear the air there. How about that, Kerry?
Hey, I appreciate that. I was talking to you on the phone about this one day, and it gave me an idea. So I wrote 2. I'll say it. I wrote 2, and I sent them to you, and you told them. People can just figure out which 2 it is. But I took stories from that people had told me, and I just kind of, made it more interesting.
Right.
And that was really all I did. I mean, it was stuff that actually happened. I just kind of, I don't know, you'd have to listen to it.
You made the story interesting is what you did.
Right. That's all.
That's what writers do. That's exactly what writers do.
Well, I'm not a writer, but it was still kind of fun, when I actually had time to do stuff like that. That was good, man. Kat, did you bring something?
Yes, sir, I did.
Ooh, let's do it.
I had one story it was actually a personal encounter, but I can't find it. But this one, I've heard the story before. I don't know who the author is. I got it on the internet. I am a paranormal investigator, but this story actually creeped me out. So it's just a short one. And bear in mind, I'm not as talented a storyteller as Mr. Cryptid is here.
None of us are.
Yes, you are.
So this one's called The Cell Phone. Oh, my dog just came in. I'm sorry. I hope she doesn't start barking now.
I hope that's not the same cell phone that I told the other night.
Oh, really? Oh, I hope it's not.
Are you on HuffPost?
Yes, sir, I am.
Yeah, it's gonna be the same.
Maybe I won't go to that one then.
Yeah, I told the first 3 on that one already.
Oh, did you? I love that one.
I know it was cool. Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's see if I can.
The old woman taking the picture of the kid in the bed.
Yeah.
Yeah, we heard it. Sorry.
Oh man. Okay. Well, here.
Scroll down. The following. I didn't do that one.
The following. Okay. Okay, here we go. The following. My older sister has a ghost that's followed her around for years. I lived with her once for about 3 months, and so much weird stuff happened in that time. All my sister would say to me when I mentioned it was that her ghost didn't like me being there. Things like going to bed with everything locked up and switched off and waking up in the morning with the back door open, lights on, and the kettle switched on. One night, my sister and I were getting ready to go out, and I'd asked to borrow her liquid foundation. I used it and put it back where she kept her makeup. 10 minutes later, she's asking me for it, and it was nowhere to be seen. She accused me of taking it and made me buy her a new one and refused to listen to my side of the story. After about a year or so later, when she was packing to move to a new house, she found the makeup in a shoebox with some old letters. The shoebox was in a zipped-up suitcase that was underneath her bed. But probably the most scared I ever felt was one afternoon when I was the only one in the house, which never happened as 4 other people live there. I'd arrived home from work and headed straight to the bathroom. All the doors, windows, etc. were closed. I was standing in the bathroom and started squeezing a pimple on my chin when a female voice in the hall said, "Stop picking your zits." It was loud enough and sounded real enough, and at the time I thought it was my sister. So I laughed, told her to, "Sorry, I'm going to clean this up. It says to F off," and asked what she was doing for dinner. No answer. I stuck my head out into the hall. No one there. I searched the house top to bottom, and there was no one home. I sat out on the front porch until someone else got home because I didn't want to be in there alone. The end.
That's
You
good.
know, you have to wonder when someone hears, I don't know, I have never heard a disembodied voice, in real time. And, I've heard recordings, but would you wonder if you were going crazy? I mean, or would you just automatically think that a spirit's talking to you? You have to go there, don't you?
Well, being a paranormal investigator now, I wouldn't wonder, but before I got into this stuff, yeah, I would really think that I was going crazy or someone's trying to play a trick on me.
I think that's what I would do, really. I may not do that now. I may not just automatically think that it's me, in my head. But I guess it depends on how you experienced it, whether you actually heard it or if it was something in your head, or I don't know how these things come to people. It's got to be audible, I would suppose. But you hear of people that are among other people that hear something and nobody else hears it. So you got to think that, lithium might be one of the things that they need.
I heard a voice today.
You did? Was it yours?
He kept saying, "Buy that ice cream. Buy that ice cream."
And did you buy the ice cream?
No, but my wife did. So
you were both hearing it. Yeah, I hear that voice a lot. That's a powerful voice.
Yes, it is.
It is most powerful. We were talking about writing stories. A good friend of mine is actually writing a retelling of my story, and it's taken him a long time to do it. I don't know when this thing's coming out. It's been like 3 or 4 months, I think, and I keep waiting and waiting, and I'm just wondering, he must be a busy guy. That's all I can say.
I think he's about 2 weeks away from taking about a month off. That's right. That guy that you're talking about went on a Bigfoot expedition last February and was going to put out a documentary on it within 2 months. And I have worked 7 days a week, pretty much every week since then. The work just won't let up. I mean, I worked all day today, and I just quit about 2 hours before this, but it's crazy. And the thing is, Kerry, you know how this is. When the work's there, you got to get it. And so that's just kind of the way work comes first, I'm surprised I have time to do these videos that I do, but I make time.
I wish I was like you and got to work right there by the house, but I mean, I didn't go to school to become an engineer or anything like you did. So I actually quit high school and went to be a millwright. I was a millwright for a long time, and then I saw Bigfoot. Decided I'd go work somewhere where there's never been a Bigfoot sighting ever. So that's why I'm out here, literally.
I'm not an engineer. I'm a technician. I didn't go to school.
Oh well, I've seen some of the stuff you do, and it looks very engineering.
It is, but it's I'm a technician. I'm not an engineer.
Well, you draw plans, right?
Yeah, engineers don't make enough money. I wouldn't be an engineer. I'd have to take a cut and pay.
Right. I hear you. You'd be an oilfield engineer.
Kat, I'm interested in your paranormal investigations. Have you got any sort of scary or interesting stories?
Well, my favorite investigation is probably we were the team that I'm with here in the Ottawa Valley in Ontario, Canada. We're called Canadian Supernatural Research Society. It's a big mouthful, I know, but we were investigating this business in town here, and it was my job to set up the cameras. So we have cameras that will record real time, and so we're just in the process of setting up. So all of a sudden, I am standing there, and it just felt like something was trying to push me out of my own body. And our lead investigator, Katie Turner, she's also a psychic medium. So she comes up to me and she says, "Are you okay?" And all I could muster was looking at her with big eyes and saying, "Nope." I shook my head no. She says, "Something tried to go through you." And I nodded my head yes. And she says, "Go get your crystals, go get them now." When we're investigating, I like to have selenite crystals on me to help with negative energy. Some people like to have prayers. Some people like crystals. I like to have the crystals on me. And so I just dropped the cables at my feet and I booked it from my case and grabbed my crystals. So after that, I'm walking around. And again, we hadn't even started the investigation yet. We were just setting up. So I'm walking around and I'm saying out loud, whatever or whoever that was, you're not to communicate through me. You're not allowed to touch me or anyone else here. We have equipment here that we're going to try and communicate with you. So this is what you have to try and communicate with us through, not us. So I don't know how old these entities are, so they might not know what a K2 meter is. So I would say, this box in my hand that I'm holding that has these colored lights, this is what you're going to approach and try to communicate with us. So again, you don't touch us. It's not cool. It's not happening. So that was probably the scariest incident I ever had. But I was actually kind of mad after that, thinking, how dare you trying to communicate through me? I don't know if it wanted to if it had ill intent or if it just wanted to communicate, but I wasn't having it. So I was walking, my mother passed on several years ago. So I'm walking through the business and I'm saying out loud, all my ancestors, my mother, I want God to be with me here. Do not let any entity come through me. Just, protect everyone who's here investigating. And when we were ready to start the investigation, we were going to start in the basement, which had a dirt floor, and it actually had a well in the basement. So it's a very, very old building. And I just looked at the team and I said, I'm not going in the basement. I'm going to stay back here and I'm going to watch you guys on the monitor. So they jokingly said, "Oh, are you afraid of the ghost?" I said, "No, there's spiders down there and I don't like spiders." So they just scraped the hell out of me. So when they were done in the basement and they came up on the main floor to continue the investigation, a couple of them came up to me and said, "Can you just brush my back? Do I have anything on me? There's spiders down there." I'm like, "That's why I didn't go down. I don't like spiders." So, but no, that was after the investigation. Katie said, "Where did you go after, when that happened?" And I said, "Katie, when you were talking to me, you sounded like you were way down at the end of the hallway. I could barely hear you. And it's just like something was trying to push me aside." And again, like I said, I wasn't going to have that. Like, I really did kind of get angry with that. And that never happened before, and it hasn't happened since.
Wow. That's
wow.
Do you do any sort of protection before you go into places? Do you, say prayer or whatever?
Yeah. Katie says a prayer for the whole team. And we all mumble a few things. Some of us are Buddhist in the team, so everybody does their own little thing. Again, for myself, I'm very drawn to the crystals, especially the selenite and hematite. Hematite's for grounding. Selenite is for negative energy. I like to keep those on me. And I have my mother's crucifix. She was extremely, extremely religious. I'm more spiritual, but I always feel protected when I wear her crucifix. I just feel like she's there, and it just gives me that little bit more firepower whenever I go into a situation where we're investigating. We don't even know what it could be when we first go in, what we're investigating. And then we also use sage at the end of an investigation. We sage the property, we sage ourselves. We have holy water as well, depending on the severity of what the client is going through. And we always ask them, "What would you like us to do after we've investigated? Do you want us to cleanse your house and get rid of it, and or do you want to just keep them here if it's just grandma?" And 9 times out of 10, even if it's grandma, they're like, "No, we'd like for you to get rid of it." But sometimes we have, people say, "Oh, well, it's harmless." Well, yes, we believe it's harmless, but then it's like, okay, no, they can stay. But we always tell them, reach out to us if you keep having activity, and we'll more than happy to come back and do more saging and everything. Because sometimes saging just once doesn't do it. You have to go back a couple times. Plus the guests' intent, because some people think it's a really cool thing when they have a team go in. We've had some people say, "Oh, we watch all the TV shows. This is really cool." And they have their friends over and they're drinking beer. It's like, well, please be respectful of us as well. We're not your personal entertainment. We're here to help you because you contacted us. So, and I have told countless clients before that you need to use, like this one woman in particular, it was herself and her 3 children. And I said, you need to use your mom voice and tell whatever it is here to get out. This is not your place. This is my house. But you have to have the intent behind it. So the best way I could explain it was say, use your mom voice. And she was fine after that.
Wow. What does saging do, really? I mean, that's is it just like a talisman, and the intent is what works here, or is it actually something in it that makes it work?
I do believe it has intent as well, but for some reason, sage has been used for centuries to help with negativity. Some religious groups will use it. It doesn't have to be Catholic groups. Native Americans have used sage or sweetgrass just to keep negative energy off of them. So it's something that's been around for an awful long time. But I also find it's the intent as well, because if you have something in your hands, and this is my personal belief. I told somebody one day, if you think a spoon is going to help you get rid of something, it's the intent. That spoon is helping you to concentrate, to get rid of whatever negativity it is. And now, obviously, it doesn't always work, and you do need to bring in some people to help you, but it's the intent. It just helps you visualize. But for some reason, the sage, like I said, it's been around for a long, long time, and it seems to work.
I use it. I love it. I like making smudge sticks and cleansing.
I love the smell.
Yeah. And I even waft mine with a feather. My smoke with a feather.
Yes, me as well. Yeah.
I really like it. I'm going to send you smudge sticks, Kerry.
Okay.
It's like, what? What's that?
Can't hurt, I guess.
I smudge my house on every once in a while, and there was one time I was having computer issues, and I thought, if I can't get this fixed, I won't be able to record any of my episodes. So one of my friends jokingly said, you need to sage your computer. So when I did my house, I did extra saging, with the feather. I had extra smoke going towards the computer, and I didn't have issues again after that. So I don't know if it was a coincidence or what, but it worked.
Like you say, it's just amazing what you can do, in your mind. If you want something, I think
exactly
you can create it if you put enough into it.
Mm-hmm.
If there are spirits here, I want them to stay, because I live by myself for like months at a time. So I hate to run off any company,
You just need somebody to talk to, don't you, Kerry?
Yeah,
I do, man. Maybe I should start talking.
Only the good ones, though.
That's what I should do. Just start talking to the walls. Maybe they'll come out. I don't know if I can handle it. If they did, I don't know. But yeah, David Lee W. people are starting to notice my name. Yeah, I kind of smart alecked up my name tonight a little bit. And I'm not wearing Under Armour. This is not Under Armour. So that's 2 nights in a row for you guys. Thank goodness it's cold here, because that's all I've got. That doesn't say Under Armour on it.
What about you, Cam? Have you had a personal paranormal, something weird happened to you that you can't explain?
Me?
Yes, you.
No.
Oh.
I'm the most boring person on the planet. I said in a video not too long ago, I've never seen a Bigfoot, nothing ever happens to me. Nothing. I don't know if I'm dull to the wandering spirits, or they're like, oh, don't go talk to that guy. He's dull, or what it is, but I never have. While Kat was talking, I was trying to think, have I ever heard a voice or felt any kind of strange? And I can't remember anything. I guess I'm one of these people not in tune, not on the same frequency as those.
That's exactly what I say. But I told Daniela not too long ago that it's extreme things that happen to me usually. If something's going to happen, I mean, I swear I'm going to win the lottery one day, because it's just extreme. When I do see the one Bigfoot, I possibly saw a second one, but I know I saw one Bigfoot, and it was like an extreme experience. If I lose a family member, I'm going to lose 4 or 5 at one time. It's but good stuff in the same vein. It's just like there's no balance. It's like one way or the other. But I'm like you, man. I think I'm not in tune. I've seen a couple of shadows at the house several times. Actually, Mark Zasky, I stayed down there at their house for a couple of weeks when I first started doing Bigfoot research, and actually saw something in his house that I couldn't explain. I slept with the light on for the next 10 days, I think. And he had to remind me of that, because I completely and totally spaced it out. But he's going to be on here, Wednesday, telling all his crazy, scary stuff that's happening in their house. It's pretty wild, actually. But
did you thank him for reminding you about that?
I'm sorry, I missed that. What was that?
Sorry. And did you thank him for reminding you, since you had forgotten? Like, gee, thanks.
No, but I did remember it once he said, that I thought I'd seen something like a dark shadow move at the foot of the bed, like from one side to the other. And I was trying to convince myself that it might have been lights from outside or something, but it just didn't seem, there were no lights coming in the window. And then he told me about all the crazy. He's got some. I'll have to let y'all are going to have to tune in for that one for sure. It's definitely wild stuff. But I'm just going to the next one on the list here, Kat. So
sure. I've
read through all of them. Oh, and somebody said they wanted to hear it anyway. If you want to hear the ones that we've already did them on, was night 2, right? With Brent and Don. You can go back and listen to those. They're actually not too bad. But this one here, this is kind of creepy. It's called The Whispers. This is a story I do not often tell. I promise sincerely that this has scared me for life. And although I have looked into psychological explanations of what I heard and natural explanations for what occurred, they remain unsatisfactory. When I was a child, I was scared of the dark. I swore to my mother I heard voices in it. They were not evil, but they were not familiar, and so they scared me. It's not uncommon in the middle of the night for me to wake up and hear whispers, as I would call them when I asked my mom. She figured they were just bumps in the night and typical kid nightmare material. I tried often to explain to her that it was more than that they sounded different from one another, that the way people's voices do. On some nights, I would get so scared of these whispers that I would sleep in my mom's bed with her. It was an added bonus that the bathroom was directly outside her bedroom door for my late night tingles. I should add at this point that when walking out into the hall to go to the bathroom, you look directly down the stairs that would lead into my living room on the first floor, as my mom's bedroom was on the second floor. On one such night around Christmas, I awoke and felt the need to relieve myself. I walked out from the door and distinctly heard the phrase, "Look." And to my astonishment, a red light, almost like a spotlight, was cast upon the wall at the very bottom of the stairs. The light now had no other source. It was by itself and I was transfixed by it. Being a little kid, and it only being a few days for Christmas, I knew what that light was. It was Santa. How else could he get into my house? I know to know that I was being a good boy. I was so excited I began walking down the stairs to greet him, picking up my pace after the second step as it began to creep off the wall and fade into the darkness in the living room. That's when I heard him, a very strong, masculine voice, different from the first, not at all like my father's. Not to say his is not masculine, it was just distinctly different. It said, "Stop, right now. Go back up the stairs." I listened, turned around, and what happened next, I'm not sure. I would believe if someone had told me the same story. After reaching the top of the stairs, I heard a very loud crash that sent me running back to my mother's bed, where I jumped straight under the covers and stayed there the whole night. When we awoke the next morning, the poinsettia lights, little Christmas flower lights that glowed red, my mother had put on the railing down the stairs, were pulled straight down to the bottom of the stairs, some broken from what seemed like a forceful tear, laying in a single pile. The dry sink in my living room had fallen from the wall. My mother could not explain it. My father was worried we had been the victims of home invasion. My sister was crying. There was nothing missing. Nobody had broken in. There did not seem to be any reason this had happened. And then I saw it. And I kept quiet about it because I was so afraid that I could not force words out of my mouth. There, on the edge of the wooden dry sink that had been facing up, were 3 indentions where the finish on the wood had been worn, almost as if a forceful grip. Something there grabbed it and threw it down. That was what the bang was. I was mortified. After that day, I never heard a single voice again. I do not like to imagine what was waiting downstairs for me that night, if it was anything at all. But I can tell you, the reality was that something had physically acted upon 2 things in my house near the bottom of the stairwell. After this, I never heard another whisper again, which is sad, because in some ways, I would have liked to thank the man, masculine energy, that had stopped me from going down the stairs. This happened when I was 7. I'm 20 years old now, and because of this incident, I'm still afraid of the dark, especially shadowy stairwells. So, what do you think, Cam? You think it was Santa Claus?
No.
That was kind of anticlimactic. I mean, wasn't as good as I thought it was going to be.
Oh, it's a good story. It's a good story. Did someone submit that to you as true?
No, this is HuffPost 12 scary. Let me get scary stories. Scary stories.
But really, I mean, things happen for different people, and they have a different effect on them. It's like I helped my son move a big sectional couch today. He bought one here, and we took it up to Boonville, Mississippi, where he lives. We got to his house, and I got there, and I kept hearing these weird howls off in the distance, and it's cloudy. It's been cloudy here, and so sound, I don't know if it just carries better when there's a fog or a cloud. And and I stood out there and listened to that, and he came outside, and he's like, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm listening to these howls and moans and stuff going off in the woods." He goes, "That guy's got a bunch of cows and mules down there, and they make the weirdest noises." But if he hadn't been there to tell me that, and I was someone that had just a wild, crazy imagination, that would have affected me. I would have thought it was something else, So,
did it not sound like cows and mules?
No. Well, I mean, I've got cows just on the farm next to me, and they make weird noises. I mean, they don't just moo. Sometimes they'll make strange, especially the bulls. They'll make all kind of weird sounds, and it's like I've got 20 or 25 chickens here, and they all make different noises. One chicken will make 20 or 30 different noises in a day. I mean, I'll listen to them, and it's all kind of different things. And you know, the point is not to say things are easy to mistake. The point is to say that people have experiences with things, and it rattles you, and you know what that person does with it is something else. So anyway, back to that story you just read. You might think it's anticlimactic, but it was pretty good. I mean, it just, something like that could really rattle somebody, you know?
Yeah, I guess, especially a 7-year-old that has already been hearing, you know, whispers in the house.
Yeah.
And it just kind of makes you wonder, you know, if kids are more open, it's, you know, not just an imagination, but if kids are more open to certain things. And I mean, something told him to run back up the stairs. It was obviously trying to help him, not hurt him.
Right.
Things can happen though that have a you know, logical explanation. You just don't know the answer, you know, and that's the thing. And I can remember when I bought my house the first night, I was supposed to get the keys at 2:00, and I ended up getting them at 9:00 off the old owners. They had quite a lot to move out, and I gave them some more time. So instead of moving some stuff in that night, I just brought my bed. I wanted to stay the first night in my house. So I just brought a bed. So there was nothing else in the house, literally. It was just me and the dog. And I went to bed that night. And about half an hour later, I can hear someone coming up my stairs. I can hear like footsteps coming up the stairs. And I've just like got hold of this dog in bed, like, what is that? And it's coming up the stairs. And I'm waiting for the dog to react, at least, you know, if they could smell someone's there or something. And there's like nothing. And I can hear it come to the top of the landing. And then these footsteps, it felt like it was happening over like a long time, but it was literally just seconds. And I can hear these footsteps coming towards my bedroom door. And I'm just like, what the heck? You know, what am I going to do? Like, I'm naked in bed. I can't even, you know, if someone's coming to attack me, I just, you know, it's like going to be so embarrassing. And then the next thing I heard a light switch go on, and I realized it was my neighbor. And we're just connected by a joist, we must be. But the fact that there was nothing, no furniture, anything in my house, every sound was kind of like heightened. Yeah. And it was actually my neighbour going to bed, and he does it religiously now. He's like clockwork. He goes to bed at 1:30 every night. He switches the light on, he shuts the door, he switches the light off, and he gets into bed. And that's what it was. But for that few seconds, I was like, you know,
it was very real. Someone was coming up your steps, weren't they?
Coming up the stairs, I can hear it, you know, and walking towards my floorboards are like moving. And yeah, it was.
So apparently the neighbor stairs come up the same way on an opposite wall.
On the opposite side, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Somehow, you know, we're like a semi-detached. There's 2 houses together, so we've got to be joined at some point with joists and stuff, and that's what it was. So, yeah, I was relieved.
And now everybody knows that Daniela sleeps in the buff.
Yeah, well, no, now, you know, I've got a knife. And
not just kids show anymore.
Anyway, yeah. So that's what I'm saying. Things can happen, but actually there can be a really reasonable answer to it. Something else happened. I don't want to take over, but just the only other thing I can think of is when I used to be a truck driver, I'd parked up in a service station in Italy one day, and I was making a bit of lunch. I had a little burner, and I was boiling some eggs in the burner. And the next thing I kind of moved like that, and I looked down at the eggs, and the pans, the water's moving, and I'm looking around, and I'm thinking, what was, you know, what was that? And my first thought is someone's messing around with my trailer or on the back of the unit, you know, messing around with my lines or something. So I immediately like sounded the horn, and I'm waiting for someone to jump off the back of the trailer or the unit, and nothing's happening. And I'm like, I felt the whole thing move, you know, I jolted like that. And I actually got out and I walked around and checked the back doors. There was nothing in the trailer. And I got back in and it's like, what the hell? It's only lucky that I understand Italian, but I just put the radio on and there'd been an earthquake like 80 miles up the road. And it was just that one little tremor. If I hadn't have spoke and understood Italian, I'd have just carried that around with me as a really eerie something that happened to me that I just couldn't explain. Everything just went like that for 1 second. There you go.
Yeah, I think Bigfoot carries that same stigma. The whole disappearing and portal act, that people can't, they see a Bigfoot, it walks into the bushes and disappears. And they just take the simple, easy explanation. It must be paranormal, Yeah. And I think I have to believe that it's not that. So, all right, Cam, you're up, buddy.
I was just reading through some of these comments about all the nice things people are saying about Kat.
Oh,
How good she is with this. I listened to her and Daniela talk. Yours was good too, Kerry. Don't feel left out here, okay?
I'm a terrible reader. I'm so bad at it.
These women are smart. And Kat's interesting. I had never thought about the paranormal stuff at all until I became acquainted with her. And then I started listening to her podcast and I got more and more interested. And I told her, I said, I'm going to start looking into this. So there's a few subreddits on Reddit that follow paranormal stuff. And this is a story. I didn't copy it and paste it here. It was a short little 4 or 5 sentence thing, and I wrote a story around it, and everything I'm about to read is absolutely happened. I just, like we talked about a minute ago, I stressed it a little bit. Well, I wish I had my editing software here. I went for a run like I always do. I typically go around 7 o'clock and I run for an hour, maybe less. There's always a section of my usual route that is dark. No close street lights or lights from homes. I got close to that dark area and I turned on my flashlight. I looked across the street and I saw a figure sitting on the ground in front of a house. All of the lights were off in the home and it appeared no one was there. My first thought was that this was a Halloween decoration because it looked stiff, just sitting there, no movement. I became curious and stepped into the yard and pointed my flashlight at the dark-cladded figure. It wore strange-looking garments. I thought it was silk because the slightest breeze made the material shimmer and move. The figure itself did not move. The strangest thing, though, its face was blacked out. I could not make out a plastic mask or the usual material someone would use to create a mask. I know this sounds absurd, but it was as if the figure's face was clouded or blank. I should have been able to see a nose or something, but it was dark and shadows conceal what we would normally see in the light. I switched my flashlight to strobe, hoping to get a reaction, but still nothing happened. Not wanting to move closer, I felt like a fool, but I was satisfied it was a Halloween prop. That clouded face stuck with me, though. I backed out of the yard, afraid to turn back on this harmless Halloween figure, and I continued my run. Upon returning to my home, I went inside, drank some water to rehydrate after my run. That face was bothering me, though. It just stuck in my mind. There was something off about the whole thing. I couldn't let it go. Stupid me had to see this thing again, and outside I went into the cool fall air. I rounded the corner to the dark street, and I approached the house. The figure was gone. How could that be? It was perfectly motionless when I stood only 20 feet from it on my first lap. Where had it gone? I switched on my light again, and I saw no trace of the thing. I pointed the light to the house and looked around. Nothing. Feeling like a burglar and not wanting someone to call the police, I began to move out of the front yard again. I backed into a large tree and I dropped my flashlight, scaring myself to death. When I picked the light up, it shined up to the second floor of the house. In a large window, I noticed a shape. The shape was vague, but not obscured by anything, just hard to make out even with a light on it. When my eyes adjusted, I knew it was a person, a big person. Unless the window was built low to the floor, making whomever this was look very tall, it was taller than any human I had seen. And then it moved slightly. I froze. I could not take my eyes off this thing. When I could make out the red spots where the eyes should be, I turned and ran. It was the creepiest thing I've ever seen in my life. I ran as fast as I could back home, and I called the police and told them the whole story. They said they would send a car to check it out. I stood on my lawn and waited. Down the street and around the corner, I saw lights as if the squad car had arrived, and I moved closer to the corner and I watched. 2 officers knocked on the front door without getting a response. They eventually walked around the house, and they returned to their car and pulled towards me. When they turned the corner, I waved them down and explained that I was the woman who made the report. They told me they had not found anything that would provoke them to search further, and they drove away. I did some research and found that the owners had sold this house 6 months prior, so the house was empty, but there was no for sale sign in the yard. It is all very intriguing yet scary to me. I want to contact the previous owners, but I'm not able to find their new address, nor are their phone numbers listed anywhere. I find myself driving by the house at night. I've changed my running route, but twice I've given in to curiosity and run by at night, slowing to take a look. I've not seen anything strange since that night, but I can feel it from that house. I spoke with the next door neighbor who has a key to the house. He was friends with the owners, and they had given him keys years ago in case of an emergency while they were gone. He has lived in his house for 35 years. I asked him if he thought we should go into the house and check it out, but he says there's no way he's trespassing on property that he does not own, even though he does have a key. And he was so weird about it. I think he knows more than he's letting on. And then I noticed that his house is for sale too. Now that's a real story that I found on a paranormal subreddit. So that's the person I'm sure is claiming it's true.
Yeah, I don't know. What do you do in that situation?
I don't know if it's worth picking to pieces, but it's pretty creepy, isn't it?
You know, I always tell people, you know, if I ran into something like Dogman, they'd have to call in Matt Hooper from Jaws to investigate, because it was going to be a scene. This was no boating accident. Very interesting. You know, that reminds me. It's a scary thing that happened to me. Not necessarily anything paranormal, but when after my mother and my father died, my wife at the time and I moved into that house, and you know, we had 2 young boys. They were in the bed. We're in the bed asleep, and she wakes me up telling me there's somebody in the house, that she definitely heard somebody in the kitchen. So I get up and I ease down the hall, and you know, down the hall, and you turn left into the dining room, and the kitchen's all open. Dining room, kitchen to the right, living room. So it's dark, and I stick my head into the dining room, and I can see out of the corner of my eye somebody standing right there. I mean, just 2 feet to my left right there. So I acted like I didn't see him. And so I kind of took a step back with my left foot, and I balled up my right hand, and I turned and I knocked the hell out of a dummy a mannequin head. My mother was a beautician, and she had styrofoam mannequin heads with a wig on it, and it was sitting on a shelf. Why I never noticed it before? Of course, I noticed it 1,000 times, but I wasn't thinking in the moment. I'm looking for somebody, and I knocked that thing all the way across all the way across the dining room, and into the wig flies off of it, and she comes running in behind me, what is it? What is it? I said, it's nothing. Well, it didn't end up being nothing, because 2 nights later, we found out what it was. I had found some rat deposits, some rat raisins on the floor in the kitchen. So I was like, well, it's this rat in here making noise. So we put out the glue traps, and then they weren't the glue traps you see now. These were, really big. 3 nights later, we're all woken up, because this thing we caught him. He was on it, both just his front, and he's flopping all over the kitchen. I mean, hitting the cabinets, and you can hear pots and pans going. I come in, and this is a rat. This is the biggest rat I've ever seen in my life. He was he weighed 3 pounds, or I'm not sitting here. He was without the tail, a big old nasty foul tail rat. How in the heck he got in the house, I have no idea. I never found the opening that thing had to get in, but I went and got my son's BB gun and finished him off. But that was essentially what happened. But when I saw that thing, I thought for sure somebody was in the house, and I just knocked the ever living crap out of that mannequin. I think it had a little dent in it too after that. But it was very embarrassing at the time.
That poor mannequin.
Questions coming up.
All right.
Kat, have you ever confronted evil entity, Satan in brackets, in his ugly form? If so, how did you deal with that?
That's from 5 Hazel.
No, no, luckily I have not.
That's good.
Yes, but I do have some friends who handle the more intense cases. So if something like that should arise, I would definitely know who to call.
Okay.
Would that be a priest?
Yes, actually, I know an archbishop in Ottawa, and I also have a friend. I don't know if I should be able to mention their names, although I don't have their permission. Should that be okay? They're public figures, anyways.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's Archbishop Plato Angelakis in Ottawa, and a friend of mine, Michelle DeRoche, and also in Ontario. She's been on a few paranormal television shows, and she travels all over the place, but she handles the more intense cases. So if ever we came across anything that's something beyond us that we can't take care of, we'll give these people a call. But luckily, we haven't had to.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
Do you see that one from Matrix 7? You want me to get it?
You can get it. Yeah. That's it.
So she says, what are your thoughts on black-eyed kids? I got a funny story with this one.
I really don't know. We've only started hearing about the black-eyed kids for the past few years. It's not like, like Bigfoot, we've heard so many stories and encounters going back so many years. The black-eyed kids, I really don't know what to make of that. I've not had any encounters with them, and I personally don't know anyone who have. But I really don't know what they are, because there's so many speculations saying that they're here to observe us. Some say they're here to trick us into letting, because usually they want to be let into your home, from what I understand, and they can be. I haven't heard any good experiences about them. Let's put it that way. So I really have no idea what they are. I haven't actually done a lot of research on the black-eyed kids yet, so that I really have no idea what they could be. Sorry.
Oh yeah, I mean,
I'm Canadian. I have to say sorry.
Well, it's creepy to think about.
It is creepy.
Kids. I mean, obviously, it's something. If that's happening, something's not right here. Brent and Don from Paranormal Portal were talking about this the other night, and Don called them black-eyed beings, and Brent Brent was he was making fun of Don for not making beings a 2-syllable word. So it sounded like black-eyed beans.
Oh, instead of beings.
Yeah, these black-eyed beans. And I'm like, is that like black-eyed peas? Is that the same thing? Yeah, that was funny. Yeah, they're actually watching right now. I see Brent in here talking about it. He says he believes black-eyed kids, and it's always every black-eyed kid story I've ever heard is they always either come up to a house or somebody's car and they want you to let them in, but it's almost like you have to invite them in.
Yeah.
You know, like a vampire. That's, to me, that's just
a bit like a vampire.
Yep.
Yeah.
You have to be invited in.
Got to be invited in. I don't know what that's about.
No.
I think if I was a vampire, I'd break that rule.
Cam, have you sure you haven't got a story? Are you sure you haven't got a personal? Have you got maybe a UFO story?
Yeah, I do. And I actually talked to Kat about that on her podcast. But I don't know if it was real or not. I mean, I know it happened, but I just don't know. I think it could be debunked pretty easily. But after telling that story, I got so much support from people in the comments. I even had people, so many people reach out and say that they think I may have had a encounter and like my mind was wiped or whatever. I don't think that's the case, but do you want me to tell that?
Yeah.
You know what? I like
to take that content from Kat.
Yeah.
If I want to hear, go to Kat's show and y'all can hear that.
Okay, all right, fair enough.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
We won't take that away from
Well, it was just
it
was
you
two
can give them the cliff notes.
two brief things that happened, but instead of telling the story, I'll tell you this. A lot of people, the most memorable thing about it is how excited I was. A lot of people get terrified. They're afraid, and the first one was when I was a teenager, and the second one I was in my early 30s, and I was so excited. It's like my heart was beating fast, and I was just like, oh, this is so cool. And I think that's different than a lot of people who get real terrified. Maybe I'm weird, but I think I would be that way if I saw a Bigfoot. Kerry, you probably would disagree with me on that, but
I think it depends on how you see it, man. I think
it depends on the situation, doesn't it?
I didn't encounter Bigfoot. Bigfoot encountered me. He came, he confronted me. So I think that affected me a lot more. Not knowing anything made all the difference, I think. Because if I'd have had a clue, and if I would have been anywhere else, if I'd have been on any other property, I think I would have recognized what it was long before I did. But the property I was on belonged to a black family. I mean, that's who I had the lease from. And when I saw it, it's one of them. You know, I was immediately convinced that it was just one of the family out there. You know, and it was that close and looked that much like, you know, an African-American fella that I just thought he was really tired the way he was lumbering, you know, through and then looking at me and I knowing exactly where I was and me not thinking how in the world he knew where I was, you know, so many things that I should have connected there. But what affected me was the way he acted towards me. You know, that affected me, still affects me to this day. It's not nearly as bad as it used to be.
Kat, you talked about an experience just tonight, and I know that one hacked you off, but have you had some others where you felt excited or euphoric about the whole deal?
Oh yeah, probably my first investigation with the team. It was this older gentleman. He was in his 90s, and we're in his home. And my very first investigation ever. And Katie and I are in the main bedroom, and the rest of the team are in the bedroom next to us. And we ask the questions, you know, if you're here, give us a sign, knock on the walls. So we hear knocking. So we look at each other, and I'm ecstatic because I'd never encountered that before. So we asked a few other times, you know, could you knock again? We would ask for a specific amount of knocks as well. And we would get the number that we were asking for. Now, I started thinking, oh, it's probably one of the team members in the room next door messing with us, knocking on the wall. But no, I knew where they were, and I knew exactly where everyone was, and this was coming way the other direction, the other end of the room. Like, so to me, I was so excited. I just looked at Katie, and I was really, really excited to find out that, wow, this my first time out of the gate, and I'm getting some kind of a response. I was so tickled.
Yeah, I imagine you would be. It's interesting, isn't it? I don't know. Have you ever done Ouija boards? I know they're not the thing to do, but
I did as a teenager.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't now.
No, there's something in it though, isn't there? You think? I know people say everyone's pushing. I never pushed it. I purposely always used to take my finger off to know that it wasn't me pushing it.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it was my friend doing it, but she was really good at it if she was, because it didn't look like it. But there's definitely something in there, isn't there?
Something Steve mentioned last night about the Ouija board. You know, if the little, what's it called, a planchette?
Glass, you can use whatever, can't you?
Right, but if you're using the old Parker Brothers, style Ouija board, and you have to have contact with it for it to work, shouldn't you be able to put your hands on the outside of the board and the planchette move? Because he's right. Anything that you have to touch yourself, there's always going to be that question of, are you moving it? No, I'm not moving it. Are you moving it? And I think you convince yourself that you're not moving it, even though, you actually are. So, well, he said a lot of things that made sense about it.
Well, it's funny when one of the times that I used it as a teenager, where there was a bunch of us there, and a friend of mine's boyfriend came along as well, and we're just playing around with it. And he was not a believer in anything paranormal. To him, it was all a bunch of hooey. So he's sitting there drinking coffee, and because he loved his coffee, and we're playing around, and all he kept doing was insulting the Ouija board. And all of a sudden, he spits his coffee out, and he says, "Who put something in my coffee because it tasted foul?" And we just looked at each other, and we looked at him, and it's like, yeah, because you're making fun of the Ouija board. So I think after that, because my mother always warned me, don't play with these things, don't bring them in the house. And of course, being a little rebellious as a teenager, it's like, yeah, okay, thanks, Mom, I won't. Yeah, but I did. And I think after that, I thought, well, maybe my mom was right. And I never messed with it again. But somebody had a good point one time. What's the difference between using a Ouija board and using a K2 meter?
Right.
So I don't know.
Well, the difference might be that some people use the Ouija board maybe to try to call them through, possibly. I think that might be the only distinction, but you're right. You're still trying to communicate with a disembodied spirit. Here, Squatcher has a question. Do you think Sasquatch shows itself more to people who are sensitives? I really don't think so. Just because I don't think I'm very sensitive at all. I think, like Cam said, he thinks he got his mind wiped. I think my mind got wiped like 5 or 6 times just because I can't remember a thing. But no, not what I saw was just mad at me for whatever I had done. I crossed a line and he was upset. So I think there's a line you can cross with them. I don't know.
Kerry, how long ago did that happen?
2007, March 10th, 2007. Was the last time I went in the woods for 10 years. And I hunted a lot. For 29 years I was in the woods.
He's back in the woods now, though.
Yeah, but it's usually with my looking through the camera. I actually tried to go back and do research and with crypto reality, and I just couldn't do it. I even went back by myself and tried to do it. But
you were out camping with Sisters of the Moon?
The first time that I can remember in at least 13 years that I actually enjoyed being in the woods. And that's even going back and filming. You can't drive a nail at my butt the whole time I'm out there. I'm just so uncomfortable. And Linda is just, laissez-faire. She's 100 yards off in the bushes, inspecting something, or she heard something and she goes right after it with her Smith and Wesson bodyguard that might kill somebody, but not going to handle anything much bigger than that, and I really need her to see a Bigfoot. I do. Anyway, she just stay closer. I have a nickname for her, Magellan. Okay, this is Paranormal Portal. Brent Thomas says, in my opinion, for whatever it's worth, probably not much, Brent. Just
worth a lot, Brent. It's worth a lot.
EVP and K2 and other tools, the spirit is manipulating the device directly, but Ouija requires our participation. It's a blind channel with people inviting. Okay, yeah, I think that was
that makes sense.
Kind of the point I was making. I think not quite so eloquently. But you're right about your opinion there, buddy. Sorry, no, I'm kidding. All right. We got any more questions before we lock this thing down? They've put me back working nights. So I start work at midnight tonight, and it is now 8:30. It's a 2-hour drive from where I am. So good possibility I'm not going to be here tomorrow night. Daniela, I'll let you know if you need to get a guest host.
Okay. Well, we've got John Williams on tomorrow night, and he's actually in the chat tonight. So hello, John. Looking forward to talking to you tomorrow.
Yeah, I hate if I miss it. And then, of course, after that, we've got Carol. What's her name? Carol?
I don't know. You've not told me about this.
Isn't that her name, Carol, from Coast to Coast?
Oh, the next night, Connie.
That's it. It's over with a C. That's all I knew. See, I told you my mind was one.
I should have known. Yeah. I thought you meant on after the same night and after. So.
No, the night after. Yeah. Connie, what's her last name?
Willis.
Connie Willis. Yeah. She's the weekend host for Coast to Coast AM. She's going to be on. And then Wednesday, we've got the BLB, Blue Line Bigfoot, and Mark Zassky's going to come in a little bit later on that same night. And then Halloween night, we have Mr. Wes Germer from Sasquatch Chronicles and Tony Merkel from the Confessionals podcast. Yeah. I used to listen to it all the time. I don't have time to listen to myself breathe here lately. I am editing episode 12 of the Odyssey. Sisters of the Moon, it's coming out. I've gotten through halfway. I got the intros done and I'm scoring it now. And I'm at 1 hour and 15 minutes. This thing is going to be 2.5 hours long, no doubt. But it's great. The whole thing is great. It's the camera work is top notch on this one. You guys are going to like it. I'm actually becoming a filmmaker. So, but I am working on that. I worked on it all day today. So it's coming. Can't say when it's coming out. I don't dare say this time when this thing is coming out, because every time I do, it's always 3 days later because something's happening, especially with the uploads.
Don't stress yourself out with the date, and all of us as well, because we're all waiting. Yeah. We're all waiting.
Well, the last one just came out last month, so this would be the quickest we've gotten 2 out back to back. So yeah, I may just hold on to it. I don't want to spoil anybody.
Cool.
But we got any more questions before we call it a night?
Doesn't seem to be any more questions tonight. Just lots of love towards Cam. Love your show. And I've actually put Kat's link in the description below for the podcast that you do, Kat. You had a YouTube as well, so I'll find that and I'll stick that in the description as well for you.
Brian McSturdy, my number one brother, live all you do, Kerry. I think you fixed it.
We're live too. Oh, there we go.
Thank you, Brian. I appreciate that, buddy. But yeah, you guys are gonna like Sisters of the Moon. They're some characters for sure. You know them, don't you, Cam?
I'm the one that put you on them, man.
That's right. You did. You sure did.
Paranormal Heart. That's Kat's channel. on YouTube.
Yes.
Yes,
Debbie
Sorry.
Jones has the greatest. It's the coolest story from Falk, Arkansas, where she was raised. Did she tell you that in the story?
that's the very first thing everybody's going to hear.
Oh man, I'm just jealous you got it. But she told it to me 2 years ago, and I had a camera, and I said, "Do you mind if I put a camera on you?" And then I thought, "Oh, that's it'll make her uncomfortable and all this stuff." And so I didn't do it. So you got it, man.
I got it, and the way I did it, I sit down and do individual interviews, where it's just them on camera, and I had her tell the story, and then we camped out with them, and she told it around the campfire. So what you guys are going to hear is she's going to intro it during the interview, and I'm going to cut to her telling it by the campfire. And it's of course that's what we do. We jump back and forth from the field to the interview. It's kind of our format. But yeah, it's it's pretty creepy, scary. And then there's a lot of stories in it, a lot of pictures that they have, a lot of evidence, a lot of audio, some crazy gibberish talking to you guys. It's a good one. This is going to have more evidence in it than anything else we've put out, aside from maybe episode 4 with Richard. Had a lot of pictures, but not that much audio. This one's gonna be good. You guys are gonna like it. So, well, all right. If there's nothing else, I'm gonna roll out of here. Are you guys? Thank you so much, Kat Ward, for coming on here. Everybody, make sure you go and subscribe to Paranormal Heart. Go to anywhere you can find a podcast. I'm sure you can find it on there. You have a monthly podcast that you put out there, right?
Yes. A new episode comes out the last Sunday of every month, but past episodes are always there.
All right. And if there is a person on here that's not subscribed to Dixie Cryptid, I kind of doubt it, go check out Dixie Cryptid. Mr. Cam Buckner tells incredible stories on there. I think you could probably listen to it for about a week straight and not get all the way through everything he's got out there. And it's fantastic. I remember the first time I heard it, I contacted you, and I think we talked on the phone because I wanted to get an interview with you, and you weren't interested in getting your face out there at the time. So
still not. Yeah. I still don't like that, but I do it. So
right, and we certainly appreciate it. Thank you for everything both of you do. It's a contribution, and people don't understand how much actually goes into just putting out something worth listening to or worth watching for everybody else. It's truly awesome that you guys do that, and we certainly appreciate it. But Daniela, thank you. Let's see, thumbs up on the way out. Thank you, Jamie Harms, one of our awesome moderators. She's a government shill that's infiltrated us, and we just kind of let her hang around this day.
Yeah.
So.
Hey, Kerry, thanks for what you and Daniela do. Y'all are so good at bringing people together, and I'm kind of stumbling over my words here, but you're good at, and I've said this before about you, you are the masters at bringing people together to get something accomplished. And it's a great mark of probably a good businessman in my view, and you're good at it. And Daniela, you do a great job on this show. I always enjoy it. I don't always comment, but I sit here all day, and while I'm working, I'll let your videos play in the background, and the Blue Line guys crack me up all the time. But anyway, thanks for what you do. You guys do a great job.
Thanks.
Well, thank you. I handle the Odyssey. Daniela does everything here. All I do is show up and talk. So I can't take credit for any of this. None of it. She does it, and it's if she quits, I quit. Simple as that. We'll keep doing the Odyssey, and I couldn't imagine doing this platform show, whatever you want to call it, with anybody else. No way. But hey, just to let everybody know, if nobody knew already. We're going to Florida this spring. We're conducting an expedition to hunt for Sasquatch. It's going to be like nothing anybody's ever seen. I don't think anybody's ever done this the way that we're going to do it. We're going to have two teams, two 4-man teams. They're going to rotate out every 8 hours. We're going to be filming constantly. We're going to have 12 cameras. 6 of those cameras will be running at any given moment from any different angle, not counting drone, for 24 hours a day, 768 hours straight. My team, the blue team, I'm going to be cameraman. I'm going to be filming these guys do this. The red team, Mr. Cam Buckner, is going to be the cameraman for those guys. So if anybody didn't know, Cam's going to be a part of this epic expedition. And we named it. The name of it is called 168 Hours, a Bigfoot Odyssey. So that's going to be out probably the end of the summer. It made me that long to put it together. So just let y'all know, we got the A team. Oh yeah. Oh, you just think that's the camera you're going to be using. All right. Well, great show tonight. Thank you, Cam. Thank you, Kat, for showing up here tonight. Tomorrow night, who?
John Williams.
John Williams. He scored the a lot of movies for who? Steven Spielberg, right?
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah. So
that's he will be here.
You guys are getting faint. You guys are getting great guests on here. I'm really impressed.
That's that one right there.
Great job, Danielle. That's awesome.
I try my best.
Yeah.
I try my best.
Look who we got now. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Of course, I got. So I will take credit for this one. All right. Thanks everybody for showing up tonight. Y'all take care. Peace out.
Thanks a lot. Good night, everyone.
Good night, everyone.